Hi, Keith here. In this short video I'm going to look at how your files need to be structured if you're going to use the scripts I am providing. Now I didn't say wrote or have written because I'm taking code from learning statistics with R and also from numerical ecology with R and probably a few other places as well, and changing it to suit my purposes. So you can start with the data all in one Excel file, but you'll need to get it out into 3 separate CSV files. So you can see this one up here is called spa.csv, and CSV stands for comma separated values. So even though this looks like an ordinary Excel file, if I open it up, it is actually a text file. And the first row is these labels with commas between each, and the next row is what you see on row 2 there with comma separating each entry. Now it's not the rows of the file that matter, so you can have fewer rows, you can have more rows. What is important is the structure in terms of the variables. And if you look here, you'll see the first column is a label, and R will be using that to label the rows of the data file, or data frame as R refers to it. Then I've got 2 variables which code by status and by site. Now this one doesn't have to be status, but it does have to be one variable which is dividing some kinds of sites from some other kinds of sites. Then I've got a variable coding for site, and it's simply 1, 2 or 3, and then I've got a variable coding for replicate 1 through to 5. Now if you use, for instance, a kind of grid sampling scheme where you only had one sample at each site, then replicate might just be 1 for all of the samples. Now I don't recommend grid schemes for this particular exercise, and that's one place where I will make a comment about design. Now SPA is the spatial data, so the next columns are just the variables X and Y from where the samples are taken. And I'm just going to go up. So this is how the data comes out of my simulation, and this is how your file will look. It will have these 2 extra variables in here, species number and total abundance. And what I've done is to create 3 copies and delete the columns I don't need. Now I said this is how yours will appear. It won't actually, because I've added in extra label columns in here. Yours will have 2 columns for labels, which you create. The labels, you create the labels. I've added in an extra 2, so we would need to add those in. So that's the spatial. Next, the environmental, and don't have to create these in any particular order. You'll see that the first 4 columns are exactly the same as from the spatial file. And that is important for 2 reasons, because I'm assuming this is how your file is going to be structured if you're going to use my script. And also it means that the samples in one file match up with the samples in the other files. If, for instance, I want to draw a map, say a bubble plot, which is a kind of map showing what the values of these variables are for different samples. So I've got the same 4 variables, and then I've got the 4 environmental variables just copied directly from the results from the simulation. So last we have the species, and I reckon you can guess what's going on here. Yes, the same first 4 columns followed by the species. And as I said, I have removed those 2 summary columns because I can easily calculate those in R if I need to. and it makes much of the rest of the work I'm doing simpler if each file has just one kind of information: species abundances, environmental values, or spatial data, and if each file has the same coding information here in the front. Now, in terms of where these samples were taken, unfortunately I didn't keep a map in here, but basically I've got you will see a map if you look at the video after this one, which is summary statistics. So CO is standing for control, IM is standing for impact, and you see I've got 3 pairs of impact and control. So the impact are directly below the 3 platforms to the south, and the controls are well off to the side, to the east for the first 2 platforms and to the west for the last platform. I just remembered one more thing. You've got your Excel file set up like this. It's all ready to go, and you can see up here it's XLSX, so it's an Excel file. Now I want to get these 3 sheets out as comma separated values. So File, Save As, and click in here, CSV delimited, and put in a name. You see it's Excel is going to add .csv, so save, and we get a warning. The selected file type does not support workbooks that contain multiple sheets. So if I click OK, it's only going to save spa.csv, this one sheet. There we go. My new file may contain features not compatible with CSV. Do you want to keep the workbook in this format? Click Yes. So what it's saying there is this file, this sheet, may not be compatible with CSV. So if I'm clicking this, it will be saving it in that other format, and there it is, my new file, and that will have just one sheet in it. And if I can send it to, actually open with Notepad, you'll see what I mean by saying it's comma separated. That's what's actually in the file. Okay.